Imagine you're sitting in your pressurized dome on Mars, and your neighbor drops by for a chat. You offer them a cup of coffee, a simple gesture of hospitality that we do thousands of times here on Earth without thinking twice. That cup of coffee just cost you $50,000, while billionaires like Elon Musk sell us dreams of red planet colonies and interplanetary civilization. The numbers tell a different story. It's time to face the truth and ask the real question: will life on Mars ever be economically viable? Let's talk about what it would actually take to build a functioning society on the red planet. The shipping nightmare. Let's start with the most brutal truth of all. Getting anything to Mars costs more than most people make in a lifetime. Right now, sending just 1 kilogram of material from Earth to Mars costs $2.1 million. That's not a typo. Your laptop weighs about 2 kilograms, so shipping it to Mars would cost over $4 million. That bag of coffee beans? We're talking about a 6-figure shipping bill for something you can buy at the grocery store for $20. This creates what economists call the Mars paradox. Everything colonists need to survive must either be produced locally, which requires massive infrastructure that doesn't exist yet, or imported from Earth at costs so astronomical they defy logic. Consider this: a kilogram of gold is worth about $60,000. Even if Mars colonists found pure gold lying around on the surface, they'd lose over $2 million on every kilogram they tried to ship back to Earth. The economics are so broken that precious metals become worthless trash. But here's where it gets truly insane. We've never actually returned anything from Mars to Earth. Ever. That $2.1 million shipping cost? That's just one way. The return trip would likely cost even more, turning every Mars business venture into an economic suicide mission. The coffee shop economy. Now let's talk about what daily life would actually look like in this economic hellscape. Imagine trying to run the simplest business on Mars, let's say a coffee shop. Your startup costs would include shipping coffee beans, $200,000 per kilogram, shipping a coffee machine, $10 million, shipping cups and supplies, another few million. And that's assuming you can even get breathable air and water sorted out first. Your customers? Maybe a few hundred people in the entire colony, all of whom are paying these same insane costs for everything they own. Your market isn't just small, it's microscopic. This is why economic models for Mars colonies look nothing like anything we've seen on Earth. Traditional businesses simply cannot exist when your supply chain costs millions of dollars per kilogram. Some researchers propose something called full reserve banking, a system where banks keep complete reserves instead of the fractional reserve system we use on Earth. Others suggest diffuse capital ownership, spreading ownership of all major infrastructure among colonists to prevent any single person or group from controlling the economy. But these aren't just different economic models, they're desperate attempts to create an economy that might actually function when normal economics have completely broken down. The Australia deception. Here's where the Mars sales pitch gets really deceptive. Proponents love to compare Mars colonization to historical examples like Australia or America. Look, they say, Australia started as a prison colony, and now it's one of the world's most desirable places to live. This comparison is not just wrong, it's dangerously misleading. When Europeans colonized Australia, they could ship valuable goods back to Europe. Gold, wool, agricultural products. These exports funded the colony's growth and made the investment worthwhile. Australia had something Europe wanted and was willing to pay for. Mars has nothing Earth wants that's worth the shipping cost. Nothing. Not rare metals, not unique materials, not anything. The fundamental economic driver that made every successful colony in human history work simply doesn't exist on Mars. Even worse, Australia's early colonists could breathe the air, drink the water, and grow food in the soil. Mars colonists will be trapped in artificial environments, dependent on technology for every breath they take, every sip of water, every bite of food. The comparison isn't just flawed, it's a fantasy designed to hide the unprecedented challenges of Mars economics. The Manufacturing Mirage. But wait, Mars enthusiasts argue. We'll manufacture everything we need on Mars itself. Let's examine this claim with cold, hard economics. Mars does have raw materials: iron, titanium, aluminum, and plenty of sand for concrete. On paper, colonists could theoretically build everything they need. But here's the catch. They need incredibly sophisticated manufacturing equipment to do it. 3D printers, metal refineries, electronics factories, chemical processing plants. All of this equipment has to be shipped from Earth first, at those same $1 million per kilogram costs. We're talking about tens of billions of dollars in equipment before a single Mars-made product rolls off the assembly line. Then there's maintenance. Every piece of machinery eventually breaks down. On Earth, you call a repair service or order replacement parts. On Mars, every broken component is either irreplaceable or costs millions to ship as a replacement. The International Space Station has been experimenting with manufacturing fiber optic cables in zero gravity. Cables so perfect they could revolutionize internet infrastructure. Even this incredibly advanced, high-value product still isn't economically viable compared to Earth manufacturing with current shipping costs. If the most advanced manufacturing project in space isn't profitable, what hope do Mars colonists have? The population trap. Here's an economic reality that Mars proponents never discuss. Colonies need customers. Every successful economy requires a certain minimum population to function. You need enough people to justify specialized jobs, enough consumers to support businesses, enough workers to maintain infrastructure. Economists call this minimum viable population. And for a modern technological society, we're talking about hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. Mars colonies will start with maybe dozens or hundreds of people. The economics simply don't work at that scale. Who's going to run the hospitals when there are only 200 people in the entire colony? Who's going to manufacture computer chips for a market of 500 people? This creates a vicious cycle. You need a large population to make the economy work, but you can't afford to transport a large population because of the insane costs we've already discussed. Each new colonist represents another multi-million-dollar investment with no clear return. And here's the really disturbing part. Unlike Earth immigrants who can return home if things don't work out, Mars colonists are essentially trapped. The return journey is even more expensive and dangerous than the initial trip. Once you're on Mars, you're committed for life. The sovereignty crisis. Now we enter the most dangerous territory of all: politics and power. Who owns Mars? Who makes the laws? Who controls the resources that keep everyone alive? Unlike historical colonies that operated under distant but established governments, Mars will be so isolated that traditional governance becomes impossible. Communication delays mean Earth-based oversight is impractical. Mars colonies will essentially become independent city-states from day one. This creates unprecedented political and economic risks. What happens when the group that controls the water supply decides they want a bigger share of resources? What happens when different nations establish competing colonies and claim overlapping territories? Some experts propose restricting tourism to prevent currency manipulation. Others suggest that Mars tourists should be forbidden from owning capital or transferring money back to Earth. These aren't economic policies. They're desperate attempts to prevent economic colonialism and resource wars. The isolation that makes Mars colonization so expensive also makes it politically unstable and potentially dangerous. The insurance policy delusion. Ultimately, most Mars colonization advocates fall back on one final argument: Mars as humanity's insurance policy against extinction. From a pure economic standpoint, even the most conservative estimates put the cost of establishing a self-sufficient Mars city at around $10 trillion. That's roughly 1/8 of the entire global economy. And even then, the colony wouldn't be truly self-sufficient. It would still require regular supply shipments from Earth. Let's put this in perspective. $10 trillion could solve climate change, end global poverty, cure most diseases, and build sustainable energy infrastructure for the entire planet. The opportunity cost of Mars colonization isn't just enormous, it's morally questionable. As one economist put it, this would be like spending your entire life savings on asteroid insurance while your house is on fire. Yes, asteroid impacts are a real risk, but we have immediate solvable problems here on Earth that require urgent attention and resources. The insurance policy argument might make emotional sense, but economically, it's one of the most expensive insurance policies ever conceived, with benefits that may never materialize. So where does this leave us? Mars colonization, as currently envisioned, faces economic challenges so severe they seem impossible. Today's economics make that $50,000 coffee a mathematical certainty. But if we stop looking at Mars through the lens of today's limitations, it might look more probable. History has a pattern of making the impossible inevitable. 100 years ago, flying across an ocean cost the equivalent of $75,000 in today's money. Now, you can do it for less than what you'd spend on dinner. The economics that seem impossible today have a way of becoming tomorrow's routine. Revolutionary propulsion technologies could slash those $2.1 million shipping costs by 99%. Breakthrough manufacturing could turn Mars raw materials into high-tech products that justify their transport costs. Advanced AI might solve the minimum population problem by automating entire industries with skeleton crews. Consider this. SpaceX has already reduced launch costs by 90% in just 2 decades. If they achieve similar breakthroughs in interplanetary transport, suddenly that coffee drops from $50,000 to $5,000. Still expensive, but it's progress. The most intriguing possibilities lie in completely reimagining what a Mars economy could look like. Instead of trying to recreate Earth's economics on an alien world, Mars colonies might pioneer entirely new economic models. Mars won't be humanity's backup plan. It will be humanity's laboratory for building better civilizations. The Red Planet might force us to solve problems we didn't even know we had, creating economic systems that work better than anything we've built on Earth.